All right, how's everybody doing? So, look, we just finished up a really good conversation within this community. We were talking about this whole idea is taking a life ever justified, and it was all over the place so far as where the guys were with verses. And I'm just going to share a few verses to help kind of get you thinking, help you wrestle through this idea. At the end of the day, the men within the lion were united around, yes, there are times when justification exists for taking someone's life. And we talked about war, we talked about self defense, we talked about just justice in general, and a couple verses that we thought were really salient and wanted to encourage others with was Genesis 9:6 says, "Whoever sheds human blood, by human hands shall their blood be shed. For in the image of God has God made mankind." That's just a good, simple reminder for us that at the end of the day, we're made in His image, and He cares about each and every one of us. Yet there is a penalty if you take someone else's life. And we looked at verses like Hebrews 13:8 says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Because so many people want to say, well, you know what, you got the Old Testament, you got the New Testament, so you can't confuse the two. We're like, no, no, no. Wait a minute now. You just because Christ came, he didn't take the Old Testament and things from the law and throw it away. No, he said he came to fulfill the law. So therefore, we just stand on that, okay, and recognize that he doesn't change. Malachi 3:6 says, "If the Lord doesn't change, so you, descendants of Jacob, are not destroyed." So we recognize that he is the same. Now, a big verse we spent a lot of time talking about, particularly when it comes down to um, um, those on death row and the death penalty itself, was Romans 13:4. And Romans 13 is just a great chapter anyway to look at, governing standards and authority. But verse 4 says, for the one in authority, sorry, is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. And that is so important for us to remember. At the end of the day, there is authority put here for a reason, right? And when you go to that step where you're taking someone else's life, and you do that, then you are responsible for your actions. And sometimes that responsibility means, you know what? They have a sword too. It's time for you to go. Then you have verses like Ecclesiastes has chapter 3, verses 3 and 8 says, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, a time for peace. There are seasons, there are times in every person's life, and every man's life in particular, where you have to take a stance for something. You have to. I mean, we talked about a lot of things in this conversation, but we recognize, you know what? When the time comes, you have to be ready. You have to be ready. And verse in Exodus chapter 22, verses 2 and 3 says, if a thief is caught breaking in at night and is struck a fatal blow, the defender is not guilty of bloodshed. But if it happens after sunrise, the defender is guilty of bloodshed. So it's talking right there. It's just recognizing at the end of the day, we have to defend. We are called to defend. We're called to defend yourself. So if you know someone's coming to attack you tonight, what would you do? You wouldn't just go to sleep and just hope for the best. No, you would take defense, and it's okay to do that. Then we talked a lot about it out of Nehemiah, about, so far as when they were building the wall, they were literally building the wall, holding the spear in one hand, holding a shovel in the other, building the wall up, because sometimes you have to be on the ready. You have to be ready to defend yourself at all times. And it says right here, Psalm 144 verse 1 is another verse that one of our guys brought up. It says, praise be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. Recognize that he wouldn't be training us for war and for battle if we weren't required to do that from time to time. So that just they go hand in hand. That's what it's all about. And then Romans 12:8 says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So at the end of the day, so much of what we talked about within the conversation in the Lion what was around the heart issue. Now we recognize murder is bad, right? Murder is something we can't play with that, but we're not talking about murder here. Recognize that is a sin, and it's never justified. But outside of murder, you do have times where you have to stand for something. You have to reach out and ask yourself, you know what? Am I doing this for righteous sakes? Am I doing this? Is this honoring, glorifying God, or is this vengeance? Because this vengeance, we have to be super careful, super intentional, not to walk down the wrong path, right? So, a couple final thoughts, as we wrap up today, is We recognize all life is sacred. All life is sacred, and we're made in God's image. We recognize that. Murder is always a sin. We know that to be true. Defense of self and others is justified. We know that to be true, as long as it's not done out of vengeance. There is a place for evil to be restrained. And recognize this: if you don't believe that there is such thing as evil, I don't know how we can help you. Okay, it's here. It's here. And as follower of Jesus, our highest calling is definitely to pursue peace and reconciliation whenever possible. And that's not always possible. But if it is possible, let's try to pursue that. So this is a powerful conversation we had. Again, this is we do this every Friday in our Line Within Us community. You want to take part of these Friday Forge conversations where we drop the plow and go deep, hop in, check out the links in the notes in this video, and we'll love to see you inside there to join us every Friday as we come to the forging table. All right, have a great one. Get after it. Keep unleashing the Line Within.